How can any woman in the world not be involved in something like and the eradication of that oppression? Now, I don't know what specific definitions different populations use for in terms of what feminism is, but I would define myself as a feminist as a person who is actively involved in the struggle against sexism. It's as simple as that. That's, you know, to me, that's the bottom line. So if you're not if you can't embrace that, then who and what are you?
Well, what about for just kind of, and let me be clear, I am a feminist and have identified as one. So before I segue into my question, let me just be clear. I am a black feminist. I'm clear about that. At the same time, what I hear in my classes, what I hear women who I love, who I think embody what I would define as feminist principles, but they do not use that term because it is associated with white women.
Yeah, and that's the type of I don't want to call it ignorance, but that's the type of perspectives that's going to be part of what I call weapons of oppression. Because, once again, to me, it's so simple. It doesn't, you know, you put politics, not biology, in the lead. So any woman, I don't care what the color, what anything is, they should be fighting against the oppressions of sexism, against patriarchy. To me, it just seems so simple. When you get into this business of divide and conquer, you can lose grounds. You shouldn't be talking about sexism unless you talk about racism. You shouldn't be talking about ageism. All the oppressions, you put them together and use that as your body to fight the status quo, you overcome those oppressions, then you're doing something. That's the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, and those who don't, back to your specific question, those women who feel that it's a white woman thing, white women's what? If the bottom line is you're struggling against sexist patriarchy, that's not a white or black thing.
No, but there is racism amongst white feminists. We cannot deny
There's
that.
racism in all white people. Right. Unless you're anti-racist.
Right, exactly. So I think that's where it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need a feminism that definitely is about the eradication of patriarchy and sexism. But also, I want to see a feminism that is about the eradication of all forms of oppression. You know, like, it's kind of like the nun that you were just talking about, where it's all interconnected. Because I always say, if sexism ended right now, I'm still not safe as a black woman. If racism ended right now and we don't address sexism, I'm not safe. So we need kind of an intersectional approach. But I think that somehow, particularly mainstream feminism, it has been kind of co-opted and viewed, thanks to the media, is viewed as that this is something that is only, you know, of interest and concern to white women.
Well, you say mainstream. To me, feminism has always been that way. From the get-go. They never did incorporate other oppressions the way I think they should have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's single-issue politics. And as long as you continue with single-issue politics, it's a divide and conquer situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I guess one answer to your question is you just got to try and educate the people, but that's for you younger people, because I've been through this education
Your article in 1981, what is it? You know, liking the Naja between Marxism, feminism, and capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, you have definitely, you along with Janetta Cole and Sonia Sante, I mean, you all have really, Beverly Guy-Sheftall, Tony Cable-Barr, laid, you know, foundations for us in which to build upon, and these are the issues that we address on Feminist Wire, you know, and other, you know, Insight, Women of Color Against Violence, that we are, you know, making those links. And there are definitely, well, the Feminist Wire is a multiracial collective, and there are many anti-racist white feminists, male and female, who are doing this work. You know, learning from the mistakes, hopefully, you know, of those who precede us, and building upon all the hardcore work that you all have done. Yeah, yeah.
But you know, where do you see feminism going if it's not actively engaged in the struggle against sexism? To me, that's the bottom line.
Is that what you're asking me? No, that's
as you work with these younger people, you know, and you're out in a larger world than I am here in St. Croix, you know.
No, I think it is. We do
understand.
have to eradicate sexism and patriarchy. We do. I mean, I look at it as a kind of a multi-layered, multi-pronged approach. That it's not kind of we got to do this and then we can get to that. We got to do this and then we get to that. I see it as that we're going to deal with these multiple forms of oppression. You know, it's kind of as, you know, so many women. I mean, I think about Audre, but I know she was not the only one, where it's like, you know, do I wake up in the morning and I'm black at 9? Am I a woman at noon? Am I a lesbian at 4? You know, so I think that we have to deal with all of these identities, if you will, and we can get into that. But in terms of the ways in which people have been oppressed and marginalized. So I definitely believe that feminism is, you know, about the eradication of sexism and patriarchy. But I also, in terms of feminism that I embody or strive to embody, think it is about the eradication and oppression of all people, all marginalized people that we're trying to, you know, and I'm interested in a socialist feminism. I like to eradicate capitalism as well. That's Aisha. I don't.
Oh yeah, that keeps it going.
You know,
keeps the status quo.
Yeah.
But by definition, there has to be an exploited group. By definition of capitalism, and who gets exploited? The marginalized people.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. So, are we going to talk about titles or
whatever? I'm here.
I want to, you know, kind of. I feel like I'm easing into the ocean here with you around the term lesbian, and you know we've had many. I've been here for about 4 days, and we've had many dialogues around this this term, and I want to talk about it with you.
Okay, I'll begin by saying, my dear departed friend Tony K. Bombara said lesbian is the word is an adjective, and I, Gloria Joseph, said the word is an artifact. So there you have two scholars. One says it's an adjective, one says it's an artifact. Tony's not here to defend her side. I'm here to further explain my side. I think it's an artificially produced product as a weapon of oppression. You can line up, I mean, any number of lesbians, and how do they define themselves? What is a lesbian?
This is Aisha's question.
Well,
who speaks as a lesbian? Who is a lesbian?
When a female assigns that name to herself, what is she saying she is?
So it is not a term that you use to describe yourself.
What would I be describing myself as a lesbian? As a what? As a what?
I mean, as somebody who's been who was partners with Audre Lorde, who's partners with Helga.
Yeah, that's just what it is.
That's just what it is.
And what more can it be? Be who you are.
I want to talk about this, and we're going to segue into the bioanthology. And I just think it's really this is a book titled "Hell Under God's Orders," and it's Hugo, which happened in 1989, and it is a powerful book that I'm going to let Dr. Joseph talk about. That was written and edited by Dr. Gloria Joseph, as well as Hortense Imro, and with Audre Lorde. And I just really, in terms of what we call now, you know, DIY, do it yourself. I mean, you all, you know, I feel like feminist trailblazers were DIY long before there was DIY. And so if you could just talk about this book.
Yeah, very briefly, 1989, Hurricane Hugo hit. It was the hurricane of the century. And unfortunately, what happens here in terms of hurricanes and weather, etc., the states doesn't pick it up. They pick up hurricanes more in the states. And this was a hurricane that just devastated about 90% of the island. And after it happened, I said, look, before the sociologists run down here and start describing what they think it happened, let's get the first-hand experience from people. So we, when I say we, Hortense Rowe and I and Audre, interviewed a number of people and told their experiences as to their experience during the hurricane. And we wanted it happened in September. We wanted it out for the holidays, so we knew to get a press and all that necessary qualifications, performances before you can publish a book. So Audrey and I created a press, the what's that press called? Thing of
is it Trail One? Winds of Change.
Yeah, Winds of Change. So we called that our press, and it's still operating. Matter of fact, when I did Gloria Road and Dr. Janzera Kahina Davis, she was very instrumental, and she did a lot of interviews for that. Plus, she was very instrumental in getting the book out under that with that press. Mm-hmm. So it was a good example of how you do it yourself when you have to, and providing accurate information about a phenomenon such as this.
Can you just briefly just share, particularly because I'm sure there'll be lots of academics hearing this, why was it important for you all to get this book out before the sociologists and came down?
Because when they come down, they come for a few days and they don't have enough chance to understand the culture. For example, when they sent some of the soldiers down here, they didn't think that the blacks were citizens. You know. And sociologists use the background information they have for their interpretation. They have a preconceived notion of what is, and they'll apply that to a situation, and you get misinformation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they wouldn't even know the term locals. You know, what is a local, and some of the, the foodstuffs and the accents that people have and the way they describe things. You know, they would just misinterpret it. So it's best if those people who are involved speak the truth. Who experienced it tells the story, and I said, that's why.
All right. Yes. And is this available?
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. It's very so that's wonderful. Okay, so let's segue into Audre Lorde and the
bioanthology, which I'm doing. Which where do I begin with that? Well, I can begin by saying shortly before Audre's death, we had a long interview, very long, and it was entertaining and enjoyable. We had a great deal of fun doing it, as Audre and I did with almost every event or adventure we were involved in. And among other things, she said that she wanted a biography. She wanted me to do a biography, and she wanted it to what she wanted this bio to do was to tell her story in terms of what her life, those events in her lives and her poetry, etc., how it affected and it influenced others, was a legacy. And to show the diversity of persons that she touched, whose lives she touched, and the impact that it had on those individuals and on the world. And in fulfilling that, see, and once the stories started coming in, it became clearer and clearer to me that Audre's self-definition, those 7 or 8 terms, she was shortchanging herself, because the genius in Audre was really stemmed from her humanitarian and philosophical bearings. And they also stemmed from a very African ancestral place. And this is not how Audre has been saying they talk of her about, not the poet, lesbian, feminist, but it's the humanitarian and the philosophical part of her which serves as the springboard for these others, for the other definition that she gave. And you will see when you've read part of the books how true that is, from the diversity and the range of people and what they say about her. You can see that this individual had humanitarian values which she spewed out, and a philosophical adages, you just some of your silence will not protect you. And the one I love is Wherever the bird with no feet flew, she found the tree with no limbs. Now, just statements like that, you can use to help a whole chorus on that. You see, and so this I call it Bible anthology because it's not a straight out biography where I just tell a story, one person tells a story, and I think that the best way to produce a book on Audre is to show people she influenced and how she influenced them. And I'm not producing a book that puts Audre Lorde on a pedestal. There were phases in Audre's life, as we know, that they were difficult. They were, involving in so many different aspects of an individual's life. But I see it really in phases of her life. Then you have to also consider the cancer and how that affects her life and how many of the positive values that it has for the people. Because you yourself mentioned one, but so many people that you just, who have undergone cancer, they will mention the importance of her work. And then the last phase of her life, which was here in St. Croix, really it's I don't use the word transformation, but it's such a very different Audre, one wherein she felt at home and at ease with herself. She felt accepted. She felt comfortable. She embraced her with a warmth. It was very similar to her roots in, Grenada and Carriacou, where her mother was from. And we traveled back to those places, and it's just like the crowning glory of a person's life, her life in St. Croix. So I call it bio anthology because a major part of the contents are like an anthology, but it is her life story. And in working with it, working through the book, it's like a griot telling a story, and it's being enhanced and enlightened and enthralled by the contributions of the diversity of people. And believe you me, you've seen it, it is quite a diverse group. From the top academics, known people, to B collective she worked with, to someone like, those of you who know Mia, what she meant to her.
Mia Mavis,
so that's the basis of what this bio anthology will do. The purpose of it is to fulfill her wishes to have a bio which shows that she tried to do the best with what she had, and hopefully that had a positive impact and influence worldwide.
Can you just speak a little about in terms of her being at home here in St. Croix?
Yeah, you see, when you come to these little islands, you're not just accepted because you have a name. These people want you have to be accepted in the community because of who you are. Audre was accepted with open arms. Now that's not to say that no homophobia in this island, because every island has homophobia. But she was accepted because of who she was. Her graciousness, her embracing as she did in other places, but here it was more noticeable and outstanding because of the smallness of the place, and the people get to know you better, and they really get to know you in a way that you aren't just seen as an icon. You're not taken for what you say you are, you're taken for what you do and what they see you doing. And true to Audre's humanitarianism in her different groups that would, she would, in some cases, if they need some funding, a little funding, in other cases she would appear and do readings or whatever she had to offer, she still did that offering. And again, it could be from little kids in a school, or to the governor or assistant governor, who is like in a tribute you could read after her death, the tributes they paid to her, you could once again see the range and the diversity of people whom she impacted right here on St. Croix. And then there was, there's a lot of joking and camaraderie. This one couple, they were called Bruce and Mary, and we would have them, for birthday parties and food, etc. And Audrey would be telling the story, or she would embellish about, seeing these little crabs on the rocks. They did this, and Mary would say, "Now, Audrey, is that the truth, or is that an Audreyism?" So that became the way Audrey could embellish things. They call it Audreyism. So, there's those nice little things, like if you go to the market, or people selling things on the street, and a woman had a pumpkin there, and Audrey wanted the pumpkin. She said, "Oh, no, that's the only one I have." She said, "But I'll give you half." She cut it in half and give it to the thing. It's those kind of little niceties that meant something. And then, she loved the water, wanted the water, and she could, walk along the shore and, pick up those shells and make her necklaces that she did, that she braided. So it was a good period for relaxation, and her writing she could do, and it was away from the hustle and the, as I say, the necrophilia for New York and biophilia in St. Croix. And that stage of her life, that was, as she herself said, it was, the best phase in her life. And it was, you could see why.
I mean, I know just coming to here from Philadelphia, and it is January. I've seen and taught Litany for Survival by Ada Gay Griffin and Michelle Parkinson numerous times, but I really was like, oh, this is what she was talking about when she was like, I can't take the cold, and just feeling at home here, and I've not been here a week, but just in terms of environmentally, culturally, I was like, it's something like, I've joked, but seriously, there needs to be now a film called Audre Lorde, the St. Croix Years. It's just in terms of her being here and in that environment, having the opportunity to talk with Dr. Chinzera, who is graciously filming us now, about Audrey's relationship with her children. So just how she was in the community, of the community. Yeah.
That's right. She's of the community.
And can you touch or talk about when you talked about these identities which she claimed and others claimed for her, but in the context of just when you're talking about her African ancestral connection.
Well, for one thing, if you look, not if you look, but in the book you will see several contributions, those persons who contributed to the essays, etc., and they, better than I could even imagine I could do, but they do an analysis of her poetry and how it's rooted in African deities, in the spirituality of it is so, it's clear, that this woman's soul, is embodied in African ancestral roots. There's no other way that she could write the way she does, not having, spent all that time in Africa, but yet and in some of the contributions, they specifically name the poems and trace it through the different, I guess you could call it the Afrocentric, and beyond, more than Afrocentric, the basic African ancestral meanings of words and symbols, etc., etc. It's just, it's there. And, her African roots are she can't get away from them. And that's not to say that her perspective and her acceptance of differences, you see, that's why it didn't matter what color or what race you were. Audrey's humanitarian failure, you were a human being, and you had to be embraced. But it stemmed from an African basis. Just an African Caribbean woman. See, so and to me, Ernest should be told, it becomes very clear when you read some of the analysis of her poems. You know.
When can we hope to see this bio
This
anthology?
year, 2014, it'll be there perhaps in the middle of February, March, April, around April.
All right. It is. I feel so honored to have been able to read, you know, it in its draft form. It is powerful. It is powerful.
Yes.
It is powerful, and we need this. I feel
right, and it's such a diversity, you know, from Angela Davis, Sherry Moraga, Jewel Gomez, Sadiq Abdullah, who was a man here who was head of the Bee Collective that she was in, and you know, Mia Mingus, and
Alexis Pauline Gomes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Dr. Tanzera Davis.
Absolutely.
Yes. yeah. It is.
And Kate Clinton.
Yes.
A wonderful analysis of, because she's a comedian, of how she uses humor the same way Audre used it about with cancer.
That was
very
powerful.
intriguing, very.
And the sister, the Maori sister, her piece.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is really a powerful collage of voices. You know, spanning really
right.
the world. It is, and it is truly. You really do. I mean, I felt it, but you really do see Audre Lorde as a humanitarian, as a philosopher. It is incredible.
Yeah, and there's some humorous aspects of it.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, it is
There
very.
are some light moments in it too.
And that's what I appreciate, that in the midst of this praise song and celebration, that we also see Audre as the human being that she was, and I appreciate that.
Right.
You know, because it's so easy to, you know, to deify,
right.
And she always said, you know, Michelle Parkerson actually, don't mythologize me.
That's right. And some of the stories you could see that they certainly didn't.
And I appreciate that you're including that you're showing the full, you know,
spectrum.
Yeah.
And we include the Afro-Germans, of
Yes.
course. But what is included is Audre's connection with the Afro-American population in Germany.
Right.
Especially the opera singers who left the States to make their life there. They were a strong bond for Audre, because where she went, she would look for that black community. It's important to her.
Can you talk about this room that we're in? The history, isn't it?
Let that be something that
A book?
that they read.
All right, we'll just say, but it is so good. It's like a kind of a cliffhanger. There's a reason why we're in this room. You got to read the book to find out.
That's right. Plus the unfinished novel.
Right. The unfinished novel.
You don't tell them all. Just like if you have a good recipe, you leave out a little piece when you give it to people.
Exactly. So that they kind of go, it's not quite
yes,
right.
that's right. And they would say, well, you just didn't do it right.
Yes. Well, I said since being here, and you know, I'm happy that you are following through with this tremendous gift to all of us with the bio anthology of Audre Lorde, and looking forward to it. And I also want to see the biography on Dr. Gloria Joseph, the documentary. You are a phenomenal woman who has done so much and continues to do so. I mean, just in terms of your mentorship and guidance on so many levels, and so gracious.
And just for the listening audience, I think outside the box. So if what you hear me say, you think it's off the sheet, it is off the sheet, because my thinking is.
And I think that's powerful. I think it is those who think outside the box that push us forward.
That's right.
As long as we're in the box, we're trapped. Actually.
That's right. Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you.
I welcome you wholeheartedly, and Remus the dog welcomes you.
I don't even know what this will take, that people go, oh, she really likes dogs, because I don't. So don't think I'm coming to your house if you have a dog.
And Helga welcomes you.
Yes.
Yes. The spirits welcome you.
Yes.
And we certainly appreciate your being here. Because let me tell the listening audience that conversation with Aisha was extremely extremely helpful for me as I make progress with the bio, because as I told her, whoever speaks is the teacher and the other person listens. And when she spoke, she was teaching me, and I spoke, and I was a listener. When I spoke, I was a teacher and she listened. And that's one way of making progress.
And I appreciate that, because there, you know, I think that this is what true intergenerational dialogue and, you know,
is about.
Thank you. And thank you for welcoming. I mean, when you sent the emails that come on down, I was like, what? And just meeting wonderful people such as Helga, Indy, and you know, Dr. Chinzera Davis, who I'm just so excited to meet. Glad she's filming. You all can't see her. Glad she's filming. And looking and just hoping to see the Caribbean Center and just all the incredible work that she's doing here. So, I mean, this is my first time to the Caribbean. I was sharing with Dr. Chinzera that I travel a lot, going across the Atlantic, and I said, wait, I got to come down to the diaspora, and so it's what a wonderful introduction, and will not be my last time.
Right, and tomorrow you'll be showing your film, your wonderful, excellent documentary, No, to organization here.
Yes, thanks to you. So I'm looking forward to having that dialogue about gender-based violence and healing in our communities, and how wonderful to do it here in the Caribbean. So thank you.
Okay, my dear.
All right.